Let's talk about the mistakes people make when they do prolonged fasting. Out of all the things that you can do, prolonged fasting is probably one of the most important things you can do for your health, for your ability to avoid cancer, for anti-aging, for strengthening your immune system, for your brain to grow new brain cells, for any type of chronic health condition that involves inflammation, like autoimmune disease, like celiac and digestive inflammatory diseases. So hands down, prolonged fasting just takes your health results to the next level. It's way more powerful than even regular intermittent fasting. And whether you're doing a 48-hour fast or 72 hours or even 7 days, this video is going to give you some insights on some big problems you can avoid if you just have the data. Now, there's two main things that you need to know when you do these prolonged fasts. Number one, insulin becomes very, very sensitive, okay? If you had insulin resistance, now you're going to have insulin sensitivity. So insulin is going to be very, very sensitive. And that means if you do carbohydrates to break your fast, you are going to make a huge mistake. So let's talk about mistake number one, breaking your fast with carbohydrates. And I'm also including fruit and berries. You don't want to do that because here you are, you generated these stem cells, right? Ready to turn into things to help repair your body. Maybe you want to repair your immune system. If there's too many carbohydrates, especially when you break the fast, guess what that stem cell could turn into? A fat cell. And that's the last type of new cell that you want in your body. We want to reserve these stem cells for very important recovery and repair tissue, like your joints or your bone marrow or your thymus gland, things like that. So recently I noticed that my voice was kind of cracking up, kind of becoming a little deeper. So I just started fasting immediately just to make sure that my immune system had everything it needed to recover and rejuvenate. And it was great because whatever happened in my body, I overcame it within a day and a half and things were back to normal. But the effects of fasting on your immune system is very, very powerful. I mean, there are people that have autoimmune diseases, like serious diseases with massive inflammation that do a prolonged fast and pull right out of this condition and it just goes in remission. Of course, they can't say they cured it, but they can say it went into remission, which basically you kind of cured it. I mean, fasting right now is even being researched by people that are going to do long-term travel into space. They found that fasting could potentially protect you against solar radiation as you're traveling to Mars. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. Now, you can do steamed veggies. You can do fermented vegetables, which I highly recommend. I also recommend bone broth, a little kefir, an egg. But other than that, keep it really, really small. If you consume a good amount of carbs right after a prolonged fast, what's going to also happen is you're going to have this massive shift of potassium inside the cell and out of the blood. So we're going to remove potassium out of the blood, and you're going to end up with a severe hypokalemic situation, which is low potassium in the blood. And that's going to increase your pulse rate. You can get sick. It's actually quite dangerous. So this is called the refeeding syndrome, where you just eat too fast, especially carbohydrates, because it throws off your electrolytes. Remember, insulin is very, very sensitive. And so insulin is going to also take on some of these nutrients and it's no longer resistant. So everything is a whole different situation. All right. Number two mistake, doing intense exercise or a lot of physical work right out of the gate doing prolonged fasting. Okay, you don't want to do that. Your body has just been through a lot of autophagy, repair, recycling, rejuvenation, and you don't want to add that extra stress at this point. So it's not actually beneficial to do high-level exercise when you're in prolonged fasting or when you come out of prolonged fasting. Now, when you're doing intermittent fasting, absolutely, but not when you're doing prolonged fasting. It can be very stressful to the heart. Who knows also if you have enough electrolytes for the heart. Some people don't even take any supplements while they're fasting, which I disagree with. So the only point is when you're doing prolonged fasting, let your body recover, heal, rejuvenate. All right, number 3, you don't want to make the mistake that I made by overeating coming out of a prolonged fast, okay? The temptation is there. You haven't eaten for days and now there's all this food and you might start eating and going, wow, I really miss food, and I just start getting wrapped up in that. You don't want to do that because you have to realize that the digestive system has gone asleep, all right? It's asleep, and you have to wake it up slowly. I mean, you have all sorts of enzymes that are not going to be ready to help you digest, acids, bile salts, maybe even there might even be some missing microbes, I don't know. But the point is, if you overload the system and eat too much, you can get either edema in your body, or you could get diarrhea, or get extremely nauseous and uncomfortable, like I did. So I've learned the hard way. You don't want to overeat. You want to have just a small little thing, regardless of the temptation, and then wait several hours and do another small thing, okay? And then wait maybe 5 hours, and then have kind of a smaller meal, but maybe a little bit bigger. And that's it for the whole day. And then the next day, have a little bit more. So you want to gradually go into this so it's very, very easy for your body. The next mistake is doing apple cider vinegar coming off of a prolonged fast. In fact, you don't want to do apple cider vinegar when you're doing a prolonged fast, in the middle of it or at the end of it. Why? Because you are in a very strong ketogenic state, and ketones are acidic. So your pH is going to be pretty acidic. So adding more apple cider vinegar can make you more acidic. Instead, a better way to deal with that is to take some baking soda, which is alkaline, and you can mix like 1/4 of a teaspoon in some water and drink that. That will help to neutralize the acidity. Okay, so that would be one thing you could do, but also realize that the vegetables will help alkalize the body as well. All right, the 5th mistake is to, instead of doing like real food, you are doing protein powders. Not natural, not good. Remember, protein powders usually are low fat. They're hardly any fat, and that's going to have a greater effect on insulin. If you take a look at the insulin index, okay, and I have this in my book, the thing that's the highest is whey protein powder. You want to consume actual protein with its own fat, like an egg, for example, but just a very small amount. But I wanted to just create this short video to kind of give you some really important things to watch out for when you do prolonged fasting. You need to do prolonged fasting because the benefits, and also you just need to know what to break your fast with, that you're going to be safe. All right, if you haven't seen my other video on prolonged fasting, I put it up right here. Check it out.